Hello CS112, today I'll be going over a quick solution to Lab 5 which has to do with combining loops and conditionals. So the gist of this assignment was to, given a list of grades that looks something like this, you were to return a new list with the corresponding letter grades in their place. So 79 is an F, 80 B plus, so on and so forth. Additionally, you were to tack on at the very ends another letter grade of the average grade of all of these guys in the list here. So, I mean, you can read through this. This is exactly what I just said. This is an example run right here, and this is the score guide we are to use in our conditionals. So the very first thing I'm going to do this time is I'm going to create a code skeleton of what our code should look like before we actually start writing actual code. So a code skeleton is just going to be a bunch of comments. So the very first thing I'm going to do is iterate through grades. So I want to iterate through these grades so I can actually access each of these values in here and see what their corresponding value is here. So I'm going to iterate through each of their grades. So inside this loop here, I'm going to check each value to find letter grade. And then I'm also going to want to, I am going to want to keep track of these scores too in a variable so I can actually calculate the average as well. So I'm going to also, oopsies, keep track of average. Now something that I have noticed here is that this has the length of 4, so if we're going to be iterating directly through the range of this list, we're only going to be iterating 4 times, but we need to go through here a 5th time to append this grade with its average. So that could, what a lot of people did is after this looping here, outside of this list, they would check again, check each value to find letter grade. And that would just introduce a lot of redundant code. So you would have these 4 if statements inside of here, and then you'd have these exact 4 if statements inside of here, below here. Now I'm actually going to create a helper function for this just to reduce redundant code. So I'm just going to say find letter given a score. So what this function will do is it's just going to be, I'm just going to pass it in one of these scores, so 79, 80, so on and so forth, and it's going to return a letter grade. So this is where all my conditionals are going to be. So I'm going to check if score is 95 to 100 inclusively, so that's 95, make sure I'm doing this right, so it's going to be greater than or equal to 95, while being less than or equal to 100. Then I'm going to return the string A+. So this person did very well with that score. I'm going to say else if the score is between 91 and 94. So it's going to be 91 being less than or equal to the score, which is less than or equal to 94. And this person also did really well. They're getting an A. Oopsies. If the score is now between 80 and 90. This person got a B+, which is also very good. So it looks like everybody's doing well except if you get below an 80. So this is going to be an else because again, we're assuming we're going to have a good input. So if it's not within any of these ranges, it's just going to be an F. So that's just going to be returning an F. Now I will be invoking this function where I need to up here just so you guys can get more comfortable doing that because this will reduce a lot of redundant code and make your code a lot shorter lines. All right, so now I'm just going to go back up here. Now that I have my code skeleton in place, this whole checking value to find each letter grade, these 2 lines here are just going to be a single line of code rather than all of these copy and pasted inside and outside the loop. So like I said here, I do need to keep track for the average. So I'm just going to create a variable called average and set that equal to 0. Now the first thing I'm going to do is iterate through grades. So I'm going to say for I in grades. Now, just to clear the air, if I was to print out I right now, I would be 79, 80, 80, or 92, and 96. It would not be the index. If I said for I in range length grades, then it would print out 0, 1, 2, and 3. I'm just doing this plain old for loop here because I want to work directly with the letter grades. So now I need to check the value to find the letter grade. So now I'm going to, it would actually help to create a new list as well. Let's call this the answer, set that equal to an empty list. And what I'm going to do with answer is I'm going to say answer.appends, and then I'm going to append the return value of find letter. And what am I passing through to find letter? I'm passing through I, because I is going to be that score. So what's going to happen here is every single iteration, I is going to be 79, 80, 92, or 96. So I'm going to be calling it on the first iteration, find letter 79. It's going to go into this function here. It's going to go, it's not going to be this, it's not going to be this, it's not going to be this. It'll end up being this else branch right here. It'll return F. So then all of this will simplify to F, and F will be appended to answer. So that's kind of breaking down what's happening with this append statement. And then I'm going to be keeping track of this average as well, and that's just going to be saying average plus equals I, because to find the average, we need to add everything up in the list and divide it by the length of the list. So that's going to take care of building our list and part of our average, but now we need to actually find the average outside of this for loop and append that to our list as well. So I'm actually going to say find average here. So we already have an average variable, so what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to say I need to actually divide it by the length of grades, right? Because average is the sum of all these numbers divided by how many there are. And so that should be, I should have added all of them up inside this loop, and then I'm going to divide it by the length of grades outside the loop so we can actually get the average value there. And again, I say this almost every video, but this is equivalent to saying this. These two lines are doing the same thing. All right, and then the very last thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to say answer.appends the average, because we do want that average appended right at the bottom of my list there. However, I should also actually grab the letter grade, right? Because this is just finding the score. So I'm going to say again, average equals find letter of that average. So now I'm going to be reassigning whatever number this comes out to be, whatever the score is, it's going to be reassigned to a string or character, however you want to consider it, and stored into average. So now average is going to be that character, and then it will be appended to that, and then I'm going to return the answer. So let's go ahead and run this code. I have the example test cases here as well as the expected output. Am I in the right location? I am, so let's clear that up and let's run this bad boy. And okay, so I have I said calculate scores, and the thing is calculate grades. Okay, you love to see that. So calculate grades, calculate grades. All right, I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna make this a little bigger so we can see the output better. And this would help if I did that. Okay, and as you can see, I got the correct outputs. Let's just verify I did. So FB plus A plus. Okay, so yes, I got the correct output as indicated on the screen. And I did reduce a lot of redundant code by using this helper function. If I didn't use this helper function, I would have to have all of this inside here instead of this line of code. And I'd have to have all of this again right here instead of that line of code. So this is just reducing redundancy, and it makes your code a lot more readable, right? Because, you can just not have the same code repeated and repeated, making it very long with lots of branching and conditionals. So that pretty much wraps it up. If you have any questions, do let us know.